Howdy, y'all. Welcome back. And as it says, I am one high-tech redneck. And of course, as always, the views and opinions in this video are solely those of the host and person giving them, which are me. So, on to today's topic of discussion. I want to go through and talk about a few myths and misconceptions about paranormal investigators and the act of paranormal investigating itself. So, to start off with, I got like three that kind of all fit together, so I'm going to kind of hit them all at once. The first one is, it's just like on the TV shows. Not exactly. They're taking hours and hours and hours of work and condensing it into an hour TV show. Until you throw in commercials, you're looking at 40-some minutes of TV. Actual TV showing the investigation. So there's a lot of stuff that gets cut out. The time it takes to research, which is hours. How long it takes to make sure everything's charged the night before you go, the day before you go. So you have batteries and camcorders and all that working. The time it takes to actually sit down, talk with the clients, get tours of the place, which they do hit. A lot of them do hit on some of that, but they really clip it out. Then you got setup, which once again they truncate that and show a few little quick montages of them setting up. And then you get into the actual investigation, which an average investigation can run anywhere from like 6 to 10 hours. That's an average investigation. I've been on them longer. I've been on them a lot shorter. The average falls somewhere between 6 and 10, about 8 hours. And then you got to pack everything up. You got to get back home, get a little bit of sleep, get up, and you got to start breaking everything out, getting all your stuff ready to be reviewed. Sometimes it requires uploading video onto computers and stuff like that, which takes some time. What else? Actually sitting down and reviewing the evidence, which is the longest part of it. So, if you're on an 8-hour investigation, and say you take an 8-camera DVR system, 8 cameras of 8 hours apiece, that's 64 hours of video. And then let's say you run a wireless audio, that's another 8 hours of video. That's 72 hours. So then let's say it's a small location, you have one active sweeping team. Your handheld camcorders might end up being somewhere around 6.5 hours. So there you're looking at 78.5 hours. So you're also carrying around an audio recorder. Another 6 hours of that. 84.5 hours. And if you set up any audio recorders, stationary audio recorders along with your wireless audio, that might work out to another 14 hours, depending on where you're at. So, I mean, you're getting up and you're going to start pushing it until you go through photos. You're clocking close to 100 hours for an average investigation. I've had them where we've had almost 130, 140 hours, and then you have the little quickies where you're just running 1 or 2 camcorders, a few pictures, some audio, 5, 6 hours worth of stuff to go through. So that kind of rolls me into the next little myth, which is, oh, this should be done quick. They should have this done back to me in a couple of days if they found anything. Do you figure you're looking at close to 100 hours of video to review? It's going to take people some time to sit down and do that. So, I mean, and the reason it's going to take so long rolls into the next one, is a lot of people think that paranormal investigator is your day job. Well, yeah, we didn't charge you anything to do the investigation, so how are we paying our bills doing it? Still working 40 hours a week, plus going over all this evidence, driving back and forth to your house, meeting with you a couple of times, driving and doing research, an average paranormal investigator will not get paid, and it's not their day job unless they're a very fortunate one to have a TV show. And then most of them really don't get paid for the investigation. They get paid to be on TV. So that kind of wraps all that up. Don't expect anything less than a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, depending on how big your location is, how many investigators they have, and how busy a time it is, because these people also still have lives. If you're getting in close to holiday season, the middle to end of November, and even paranormal investigators into October is rough, because that's when a lot of people want to do promotions and talks and workshops and stuff like that. So it still works up a lot of their time. So, yeah. Next. All teams do the same job, so why should we have multiple teams come in and investigate a place? Well, not all teams work the same way. There is no set standard of guidelines for how to conduct a paranormal investigation. Some teams have different ideologies, different ways of thinking, different equipment to use. Even if they have the same equipment that you had, they still have different ideas of how to use it. So a team can come in and they can get bupkis. Another team can come in and they can get gangbangers nights. And that also falls into the location. Ghosts don't jump on command. I don't care how many times you're like, can you make a noise for me? Can you knock for me? They're not always going to do it. It can be the most haunted location in history. And you can still have an off night where nothing's going to happen. So, I mean, I've personally spent hours in something that is reported to be one of the most haunted locations in the county where I live, and it was just an off night. Really not a whole lot happened. Other teams have gone in there and they've gotten all kinds of activity. So that kind of wraps up that one. Next, this little bugger right here, despite the name on it, I don't know if y'all can read that or not. It says the ghost meter. This thing, it's not a PKE meter like for off of Ghostbusters. What it is an EMF meter, which apparently, there's the switch, was left on. And the little beeps and it flashes and there's a little needle here that jumps. What this thing does, it does not detect ghosts, despite what the name says. It doesn't meter ghosts. This is an EMF Gauss meter. This reads spikes in the electromagnetic field. There's a theory that manifesting ghosts can produce floating balls of EMF. But 9 times out of 10, if you have a hit on this, you're going to be able to track it to a source. A television, some of the new ones not so much. A fuse box, bad wiring, appliances. If you get a hit on this thing, if it goes off, and you can't find a source for it, then there's a good chance you might actually have something. But don't just stand there, oh, it's going off. And don't, okay, that way it's dropping down. Oh, this way it's getting stronger. And track it to a source. Go up and down too. Don't just go like north, south, east, west. Go all around you, up, down. You could have wires in the ceilings, wires in the floor, leaching EMF to that particular spot, which would be a cause. And the K2 meter, the Mel meter. Any EMF meter pretty much works the exact same way. There isn't a one of them out there that actually detects ghosts. So, next on my little list here. Alright, everybody. This video is going to run a little bit long, so I think I'm going to end up breaking this into 2 parts. So, part 2 should be up right after part 1. Stay tuned. If it takes me a little while to get part 2 up, don't worry. Take it easy. I will get it up. So until then, y'all, come see you a little later, and happy hunting.